Brian Weaver, if you win this election, you'll be on the council, even as the chairman who manages the $10 billion budget going through the council now. Given the chairman's personal and campaign finance problems, should he resign or what should he do?
He won't resign. I mean, whether he should or he shouldn't. I think that right now, if you look at the way that the ethics is set up at the council, it really calls into question how we govern ourselves here as a city. And if you look at all of the scandals, it's not just Kwame Brown. It's 5 sitting city council members that are embroiled in deep things. Last year we had Marion Barry and the censure that came forward from the council. But all of these ethics laws that we have before us, they have no teeth. What we really need to do is have an ethics reform that actually has teeth, and there are penalties if you actually violate Office of Campaign Finance, or if you are misspending city dollars, or you're violating the law. I mean, there have to be penalties towards city council members. There has to be some sort of accountability.
Patrick Mara, the chairman, has said that he'll pay any costs to the city for the SUVs. He has said that he has busy cleaning up his finance records, and he's apologized essentially for bad record keeping on his campaign. Again, should he resign? If not, what should happen?
Well, first of all, the U.S. Attorney must investigate this. It's very clear from the Office of Campaign Finance findings that they cannot account for monies from the chairman. They can't account for monies that went to his brother. And this is just more of the same old clubby culture, business as usual mentality in Washington, D.C. When you have 800,000 and you can't account for 300,000, that's a big problem. Another thing that people are missing, for example, in 2008, the chairman didn't even have an opponent in either the primary or the general, and just lots and lots of campaign monies are raised in these races. And if you're not ethical with your campaign finances and not properly reporting your campaign finances, what's going on with the D.C. budget?
And Sekou Biddle, this poses a particular problem for you because there is a perception that A, you and Chairman Brown are personal friends. B, it is known that Chairman Brown not only endorsed you but helped you with the Democratic State Committee so that you could be, in fact, the person who would get the interim position. And so on this court campaign, during the course of this campaign, people are likely to say, how is Sekou Biddle likely to be any different from Kwame Brown?
Well, Chairman Brown and I attended Woodrow Wilson High School right across the street together, so we have known each other for some time. How people are judging me by the work that I've done, the work that I've done on the council for the last several months, really addressing the major issues that the city faces around education and employment. People judge me about my track record of work in education, my years of service in the classroom, my service to this community. I think people, certainly ask me every day why I think I'm the best person for the job. And my track record of service speaks for itself, and I think that's what people will judge me on. They judge me on the work that I've done and what they believe I can do for them in the future.
And Vincent Orange, even though I know that you ran against Kwame Brown in the race for chairman of the council, and it was quite a testy race, I know that you will say that if elected, you will be able to work with Chairman Brown. So the broader question, what measures do you think are necessary to make sure that ethics and accountability are part of how the council operates, and what do you intend to do to bring about those measures as a member of the council?
Well, the first thing I would do on the council is I would introduce emergency legislation establishing an ethics committee as soon as I come onto the council. That way it will force every council member to address the issue. I think it was unacceptable when the chairman went on his retreat with the council members, and they went into the retreat with the idea that they would come out and create an ethics committee. And then when he came out, he made the statement where the votes aren't there. Well, we don't know what happened in that meeting, and I think it's incumbent upon every council member to officially go on record and state where they are as it relates to the ethics committee and hold a vote right away. And the only way you can get that done is to have emergency legislation, declare emergency because of the ethics problems, and get people to vote at that point in time.
Our caller would like to ask Vincent Orange, if it is found that, no, I'm serious, this is a caller who couldn't stay on the line, I'm sorry. If it is found that the chairman abused power by ordering 2 SUVs, should he step down?
I think if he abused his power, and also it's determined once this process is complete on his finances as it relates to his 2008 campaign, and if it does not come out in his favor, yes, I think he should resign.
Do you gentlemen, Patrick Mara just said that he thinks the U.S. Attorney should look at the campaign financing dollars. Do you guys object? Do any of you object to that at this point, or do you agree with that?
I did want to speak to that. I think it's too.
This is Vincent Orange.
This is Vincent Orange. I think it's premature to call the U.S. Attorney in at this point in time because the Office of Campaign Finance, they're doing their job. They have the one that they've completed a record, and their next step by law is to transfer that over to the general counsel to hold hearings and
To let the process go.
and also in that process there are penalties. So we need to see what they will impose based on what they found.
Brian,
Papers. We're interviewing 5 candidates for the at-large seat on the D.C. City Council. Sekou Biddle is a Democrat who is currently holding the seat on an interim basis. The other candidates are Joshua Lopez, he's a Democrat. Patrick Mara is a Republican. Vincent Orange is a Democrat. Brian Weaver is also a Democrat. Tom Sherwood.
Brian Weaver, you were suggesting that there ought to be new laws or tougher ethics laws, but it seems to me if they would just obey the laws that are there in terms of campaign finance, filling out forms properly, reporting the money properly. But what do you suggest? Did you say there should be new?
I think it's wider sweeping. I mean, if you look at
what should be done?
I mean, you look at the censure for Marion Barry last year. I mean, if you look at what that was, I mean, you were talking about a sitting city council member who fought to get an earmark to someone he had a personal relationship with, and then he took a portion of the earmark. If I worked at Taco Bell and I organized exactly that same thing, they would, 1, throw me out on my duff, and 2, they would call the cops. But somehow at the city council, that's okay. We allow council members to take foreign trips paid for by third parties. We allow corporations to bundle cash through blind LLCs. It is not a particularly open and transparent form of government that we have here. It's a 1980s model, and we really need to modernize it.
Go ahead.
I was just going to see if Josh wanted to get in on that, ask further on the ethics issue. It has overwhelmed everywhere I go as a reporter. People are saying to me, well, I won't use the cuss words, but just what's wrong with the city? And I want to hear answers of how to fix the reputation of the city, not just the individual council members.
Well, honestly, I just think we're missing honest individuals who are just willing to put the interests of the people first. You look at, all the scandals surrounding the council members. You look at the laws in place. A perfect example of kind of just the hypocrisy that we have going on. Last year we led a write-in effort. We were fined over $18,000, but yet you have council members, public officials who blatantly break the law, and they get away with a slap on the wrist.
Josh Lopez, you led the write-in effort for former Mayor Adrian Fenty. Has he endorsed your candidacy? I noticed that your campaign has the colors that he is noted for, but has he personally endorsed your candidacy?
He hasn't.
Why not?
That's a good question for him.
Have you asked him to endorse your candidacy?
No, I haven't.
Why have you not?
My only focus right now is to go out and speak to individual voters across the city. I've been doing that since I started circulating my petitions on Christmas Eve.
The city is not a static place. Neighborhoods across the districts are changing every day. This is a citywide race to represent every single one of those neighborhoods. We mentioned the census earlier. When you look at the most recent census numbers, that indicates the shifting demographics in the districts. But Josh Lopez, people tend to look at these numbers as a story of black and white. But the city's Hispanic population is growing. To what extent do you think that candidates and elected officials have ignored this part of the city's demographic?
Yeah, it's almost shameful. I mean, if you look at the representation within the district government, you have under 1,000 employees who are classified as, Latino or Hispanic. We've never had an elected official on the city council who comes from that background. To be a city that, celebrates diversity, that says that we include everyone's voice at the table, this is a population that essentially has zero voice, when it comes to politics in the city.
Can you speak Spanish?
Sí, puedo hablar español.
It's someday, even with my southern accent, I want to learn Spanish if I just stop being so lazy about it, but it's important.
I have one answer for that, and it's the same in English and Spanish. No. Here's Patrick Mara. You live in Columbia Heights. Same question that we directed to Josh Lopez in terms of the city's Hispanic population. You live in a part of the city that has a large Hispanic population. How would you represent that community's interests?
I spent a significant amount of time. I currently represent Ward 1, the most racially diverse ward on the State Board of Education, and I spent a significant amount of time knocking on doors, attending community festivals. And one of the things I noticed is that there's a huge disconnect and a tremendous unawareness of the numbers of Latina students in DC public schools in Ward 1. And so what I spent a lot of time doing was handing out literature, school choosers, really raising awareness for parents who may not speak English of the opportunities they have in DC public schools, DC public charter schools, but I do believe this is the most overlooked population in Washington DC.
This issue has apparently a lot of traction with our listeners and emailers. But first, Brian Weaver, I'd like to hear you on the same issue.
Yeah, I'm married to a Colombian immigrant. My children are bilingual. They learn to speak Spanish first. They go to a bilingual public charter school. I do think, I see it in the reality every day with my own family that it is an underserved population here in the district. And even with the change in demographics, the largest portion of Latinos that we have are either folks that have come here and are working, or people that have come undocumented, and they are a blind voice here in the council. Our ANC for several years have tried to get it so that people who were legal immigrants into Washington D.C. would at least have local voting rights for their own school board and ANCs, so that because that's the most true form of government at the base level, so that you could have people that were here with residency being able to participate in local government.